Welcome to the video version of the Breeders' Cup pre-race entry analysis. What I've tried to do, if you click on these links, you'll be transported to each of the races. There are 9 of them on Saturday. And what I've done is I've tried to give you comments on every horse that's pre-entered to run on Saturday. And the purpose of this is not so much to pick the betting choice, but to help you build your stable. Remember, briefly, for $10, you get 10 horses. You can all in one race, one in each race, however you want, and you can build your stable even more so with 1 horse per dollar each. I'll probably have a stable of somewhere between 15 to 20 horses. And because I have the advantage of being a handicapper and the rest of you are just casual fans, my entry fee will be $50 to get in, whereas yours is only $10. So let's take a look at some of the highlights, and you can read all of them as you go through them. So first, let's start off by clicking on the Marathon. The Marathon is a very unusual race. It's run on the main track at 1.75 miles. Very, very rarely do you see races run in North America that are up to 1.5 miles, and when you do, those are on the turf. So there's not a lot to go on as to who fits the conditions and the distance. But the 2 things that you're looking for is, have they ever raced this far, and do they have the ability based upon their breeding to get the distance. My 3 top contenders, I like A.U. Minor, who is the morning line favorite. He was my selection last year in this race. He won the Goodwood, which was 1.5 miles on the main track at Philadelphia, and he comes from way back. He was very impressive that day when he won this race, but I don't know, he got disqualified from Top Money for some kind of a drug test, and the fact that he comes from so far back, I think that works against him. I like El Defer. He won this race last year, and probably what he'll be known for more than anything else is the fact that there was a brawl in the winner's circle between 2 of the jockeys because of trouble on the turn. But my selection is going to be the European. He's listed at 10 to 1 on the morning line, and that's Briganton. I think Briganton, he has the ability to run fast enough. He's won races at least this far. In fact, this may be too short for him. He's run many races. In fact, his last race was over 2 miles. So I'm going to go with a bit of the price, and I'm going to go with Briganton in the Marathon. The Juvenile Turf is an interesting race. It's for 2-year-olds going 1 mile on the turf, the inner course here at Churchill Downs. And probably the prohibitive favorite would be Daddy Longlegs, who would ship over here from Europe. If he were to come and if he were to run in this race, I think he would be odds on, and I think he'd be tough to beat. However, his connections apparently are going to try him on the main track. First time he's ever tried dirt, with a look at trying to get into the Kentucky Derby next spring. With that in mind, I'm looking at the favorite, Finale. Finale was just ultra impressive this past summer at Monmouth when he won the Continental Mile, and he went off as a short price favorite when he ran in the Summer Stakes at Woodbine in his last start. Wasn't as visually impressive, but his speed figures said that he improved. And I like the fact that last year, the winner of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile was trained by Todd Pletcher, who trains Finale, and his last prep was in the Summer Stakes, just like Finale. I'm hoping that a lot of fans think that Finale wasn't nearly as impressive and that they don't bet on him, because he looks to be my top choice. For those of you that followed my video analysis starting early in June, in the beginning, my top sprinter was Amazombi from out west. I just thought he was tons the best sprinter in the country, especially with the fact that last year's Breeders' Cup champion, Big Drama, had not run since January. Well, in the middle of the summer, when California racing switched to the synthetic tracks instead of the dirt at Santa Anita, Amazombi seemed to hit a wall and he fell down my list of contenders. He has since bounced back. I think he's the one to beat. In fact, I feel really confident about his chances of winning. The other horse that I would give a chance comes from California, and that is Euro Ears. Euro Ears is probably the speed of the race. He'll probably go right to the front. He's very quick, and unless someone softens him up, he may be tough to reel in. But I'm going to go with Amazombi. He will be my top choice. The next race we're going to take a look at is the Turf Sprint. The Turf Sprint I won last year. I selected Chamberlain Bridge, who'd been my pick from way back in June. And when he went off at 7-1, I was just delighted. Paid $15.20. I got back almost $80 on him. And he's back to run today. However, he has not had nearly the kind of season that he had last year. I think, though, because of his fondness for the Churchill Downs course, because he's so good at this unique 5-furlong distance on the grass, I think he's got a legitimate chance to win again at a big price. He'll probably be in my stable, but I don't think he's the one that I'm going to put my money on. Havelock is a legitimate contender. He is a top-notch sprinter. He's won 3 of his last 4. His speed figures, especially in his last, look sharp. I think he's the one to beat. However, he's not run at Churchill Downs, and typically at Churchill Downs you need to have experience over either the turf or the main surface to be successful there. So if I'm not going to go with Chamberlain Bridge, the horse I am going to go with is Regally Ready. Regally Ready is listed at 6-1 on the morning line, and he actually faced Chamberlain Bridge in a turf sprint on Kentucky Derby Day here at Churchill Downs, and he beat him. And that was not the first time that he's won here. Regally Ready came off a long layoff and got beat at short odds at Monmouth late this summer. Then he lost his next outing, but then it was kind of a do or die at Woodbine in his last in the Arctic, and he was game all the way around and won the race. I like the fact that he can run on the lead or off the lead, which is the profile of the Churchill Downs turf course. I think Regally Ready looks like a solid selection here, but I'll probably have all 3 of these horses in my stable. So let's move on. The Dirt Mile. If Uncle Mo runs in the Dirt Mile, which is highly unlikely, he would be the shortest priced and the most likely winner of the entire weekend. He is a brilliant miler. However, his owner Mike Rapoli is probably going to swing for the fences and go for the Breeders' Cup Classic, a $5 million purse. To me, I think the horse to beat in here, and I think he's a very strong candidate, is the Factor. No one is faster than the Factor. And I think that a mile suits him because at sprint distances he goes way too fast. Here he can run what would be a sprint fraction, 22 for the quarter, 45 seconds for the half, much faster than other milers, but that's well within his range. I think he breaks on top, and provided he doesn't get an inside post, I think he's long gone in here. So the Factor, to me, looks like the horse to beat. The Breeders' Cup Turf. The Breeders' Cup Turf every year is almost always dominated by the Europeans. And you can tell by looking at the field, it's the shortest field in the Breeders' Cup program on Saturday. And the top 5 contenders, top 5, are all Europeans. How good are the Europeans? Well, the top 3 morning line choices are all fillies, taking on the boys. And probably any one of these 3 could win the race. Serafina has a brilliant record. Midday won the Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Turf 2 years ago and was everybody's best bet of the weekend last year when she ran second in the Filly and Mare Turf when she had trouble. And Await the Dawn is probably just as good, only Await the Dawn is already got a race where she lost to Midday, so I would put her behind Midday. However, one thing that is true in the Breeders' Cup Turf is that the Europeans win it, but it's almost always the other European. The Europeans send over a strong contingent of horses, and 1 or 2 of them tend to get overlooked at a big price. Last year it was Dangerous Midge, who went off at 9-1 and paid $19. I had that horse, paid almost $100 on my $10 bet. So my selection in this race is I'm going to go with St. Nicholas Abbey. I think he's got the speed figures, he's beaten Midday, and I just think that he may be the price play on the day. So for me in the turf, it's St. Nicholas Abbey, but I wouldn't be surprised if any of the Europeans win. The North American runners, I don't see any of them even hitting the board. But hey, that's up to you and your stable. Let's turn our attention now to the Juvenile. The Juvenile, typically the winner is crowned the early favorite for the Kentucky Derby. Everybody has high hopes, but rare indeed does a 2-year-old champion from the Breeders' Cup go on to win the Kentucky Derby. However, if he stays healthy, I think we've got somebody really special this year, and that's one of my most confident picks of the weekend, the morning line favorite, Union Rags. If you look on the analysis, his speed figures, much better than anyone else. And what I like most is he really improved when he stretched out, but even better than that, in his first try at a distance of ground going a mile in the Champaign last time out, all kinds of trouble in the stretch. Blocked, steady, nowhere to run, handled it very professionally, unlike any other 2-year-old normally does, and then blew by the field to win by open lengths, motored down. I think he's tons the best. The next to last race Saturday is the Breeders' Cup Mile, 1 mile on the turf. And you probably can't appreciate it, even though I'm going to tell you you should appreciate it as much as a real racing fan like I appreciate this. Goldacova will be the short price favorite. Goldacova has won the Breeders' Cup Mile not once, not twice, but a historic 3 times. No horse ever has won 3 Breeders' Cup championships, much less back to back to back. And she's back this year. Now, it's true, some people will go against Goldacova because she's lost 3 times this year, but all 3 of those races she ran second to brilliant milers in Europe. For me, I wanted to know, what did the trainer, what did Goldacova's connections think about her chances here? They said something about, well, she seems almost as good, we're hopeful, but no, he's already said he thinks she's actually better than last year. Uh-oh. And when you look at this field compared to last year, I think the field of characters she's facing today is not as strong as the field she dominated last year. Goldacova, tons the best. Goldacova needs to be in your stable. She's not going to pay much, but she'll probably be the bet of the weekend for me. I think if you're looking for a couple of horses to put in your stable to get some possible higher payouts, I think you should look at the next horse down on my list, Gio Ponte. Gio Ponte is going to run here. I read this morning instead of in the Breeders' Cup Classic, in spite of what you read in the analysis here. They've decided on the mile. He ran second to Goldacova last year and probably will run second or third again today. I also like Tour Lure. Tour Lure is in rare form, just career form, and he has a chance to hit the board. And I think the one that's probably going to be the best price is Mr. Commons, listed at 12 to 1. He's only a 3-year-old. But he's the horse, mark my words, next year when the Breeders' Cup is back at Santa Anita, which is Mr. Commons' home track, he will be the winner of the Breeders' Cup turf next year at the mile distance. So Mr. Commons will be in my stable for sure, because I really think if Goldacova doesn't run her race, the horse most likely to beat her, Mr. Commons. And now let's move on to the highlight of Saturday, the $5 million, the richest race in North America, Breeders' Cup Classic. If you've followed my videos or my newsletters, the one thing that has been true consistently throughout 2011 is the older handicap division in North America, weak. Every big race has been won by somebody who paid double-digit odds. Somebody that when you look in the racing format of the race, you go, wow, go figure. So I really think that's the way the Breeders' Cup Classic is going to go. If you read through all the analysis, a lot of people are going to bet on Uncle Mo. I don't think he can get the distance. A lot of people are going to bet on the filly, Havre de Grace. I think she has a chance, but I really think the reason that she looks so good is because the North American older handicap horses are not that good. A lot of people have bet on Flat Out. He's probably the 4th best older handicap horse in America. If there was ever a year where a European could come from turf races in Europe and win on the dirt in the Breeders' Cup Classic, I think this is the year. And so my top pick is going to be So You Think. So You Think will be trying dirt for the first time. However, he has won 5 of 6 races at this 1.25 mile distance, and he's been dominant. His speed figures, if you're willing to trust the translation of the European time form speed figures to Beyer speed figures, his speed figures are much better than everyone else's. Only Uncle Mo has a higher speed figure, and that was at a flat mile, not a 1.25 miles. I think Stay Thirsty is the horse to beat. I think Await the Dawn is an interesting horse at 15 to 1. If you go with the other European theory in the turf, Await the Dawn would be the other European in the Classic. And then I also think that Drosselmeyer at 20 to 1 is a horse, I can tell you he's going to be in my stable because he's just a plotter. That is, he grinds it out. He doesn't have any acceleration, but he loves these long distances. He won the Belmont Stakes last year in 2010, and supposedly he's had one of the best mile workouts in a long time at Churchill Downs. So I think he's sharp, and he'll probably hit the board. So those are your picks for Saturday. I will have a selection sheet where I'll tell you exactly who I'm going to bet and how much I'm going to bet, and hopefully we can make some money either through your stables or at the track on Saturday.